My family laughed when I told them my dreams, and they said I needed to tone down my ambition. Those words stung more than any insult, more than any criticism I had faced in the Navy. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Lieutenant Commander Emma Reyes, 34, decorated officer, Navy strategist, and lifelong fighter, had always been ambitious. And yet, in the comfort of her own family home, her achievements seemed invisible. They laughed at her plans to command a fleet, to take on strategic missions, to break barriers in Navy leadership. But this day would be different. Something was about to happen that no one, especially my family, could have expected. The family gathering was loud, casual, and full of teasing. My younger brother joked about Emma the Admiral someday, rolling his eyes. My parents smiled, but with an edge, suggesting perhaps my goals were too big. Not everyone can be a leader, my mother said lightly, thinking she was being funny. My father's gaze carried a quiet doubt, the kind that can make a person question themselves even when they've spent years proving their worth. And yet, I didn't flinch. I stood there, in uniform, medals glinting faintly under the chandelier, reminding myself that my accomplishments were not up for debate. My ambition wasn't something to tone down, it was something to honor. Then the room changed. A hush fell over the laughter and chatter. The door opened. Everyone looked toward it, confusion and curiosity blending on their faces. A presence entered the room, larger than life, commanding, unmistakably authoritative. Fleet Admiral James Whitmore, 62, walked in. Tall, imposing, eyes sharp, uniform immaculate. The room seemed to shrink around him. And then he spoke. A single word. Attention! It echoed like a thunderclap. My family froze mid-laugh, their smirks replaced with shock. Their eyes darted between me and the Admiral, realization dawning. Something was about to unfold that would leave everyone in this room speechless. I couldn't believe what happened next. For years, my ambition had been questioned, belittled, and laughed at. But in that moment, all eyes were on me, and I felt the weight of every decision, every mission, every dream I had chased. The room was frozen. Laughter had died mid-sentence. My family's teasing eyes widened, and I felt their disbelief as I stood in uniform, straight-backed and calm. Fleet Admiral Whitmore's gaze swept across the room, landing on me like a spotlight. Every instinct honed over years of Navy service told me, this was my moment. He hadn't just entered the room, he had shifted the power dynamic entirely. Suddenly, my family, who had questioned my ambition, laughed at my dreams, and doubted my potential, was outmatched by his authority. I could see it in their expressions. My younger brother, 32, mouth slightly open, whispered under his breath. My parents, who had always doubted that I could rise so far, now seemed suddenly small. Every joke they had made about me being too ambitious rang hollow. I felt a flicker of satisfaction, but I stayed calm. I knew that respect is earned, and this was the first step in claiming it. Admiral Whitmore's voice broke the silence. Lieutenant Commander Reyes, step forward. All eyes turned to me. My heart pounded, but I maintained a composed posture. Flashbacks hit me. Long deployments, sleepless nights on ships, missions planned down to the last detail, every obstacle overcome, every award earned. This moment wasn't just about proving my family wrong. It was about honoring every choice I had made to pursue my ambition with integrity. I took a step forward. The family murmurs grew, low but tense. My father leaned slightly forward, clearly unsure how to react. My mother's hands fidgeted with her napkin. The Admiral didn't speak yet. He merely observed, commanding the room with his presence alone. Then, the Admiral gestured to someone outside the room. A knock echoed from the hallway, louder than expected. Everyone turned, the room tense with expectation. I could feel the energy shift as all eyes darted to the door. I took a deep breath and squared my shoulders. All eyes were on me, the Admiral's, my family's, and now the silent observers in the doorway. The room held its collective breath. I could feel the weight of expectation pressing down on me, but I also felt something else, a quiet surge of determination. This was my moment to prove not only my achievements, but the validity of my ambition. The Admiral's voice broke the silence. "Lieutenant Commander Reyes, tell them what you've accomplished." I began listing my service record, deployments across the Pacific and Mediterranean, missions commanding units under pressure, strategic operations where lives depended on precision and leadership. I named medals and commendations, detailing awards for bravery and exemplary service. My family's mouths hung slightly open, disbelief growing with each accomplishment I recounted. I described the countless hours of training, planning, and leadership, emphasizing not just what I had done, but why ambition had driven me to exceed expectations at every level. My younger brother's whispered comment earlier, "She thinks she's untouchable," now sounded foolish, even to him. My parents exchanged uncertain glances, realizing their words had underestimated my determination. Then I shared my vision, taking on higher strategic roles, breaking barriers for women in Navy leadership, and commanding at a level few ever reached. My voice didn't waver. Every word resonated with authority and conviction. The room had gone completely silent. My family's laughter and teasing had evaporated, replaced with awe and shock. Admiral Whitmore nodded approvingly, his gaze locked on me. "Ambition like yours is exactly what we need in the Navy." The impact of his words rippled through the room. Family members shifted uneasily in their seats. What had been skepticism turned into astonishment. I felt a quiet satisfaction. This wasn't arrogance, it was recognition, earned through years of discipline and courage. Suddenly, the door opened wider. Another figure stepped in, a senior officer I had worked closely with, holding an official document. The room tensed. Everyone watched as the officer approached the Admiral, who gestured toward me. The senior officer stepped forward, the document in hand, and the room seemed to hold its breath. My family's eyes were wide, some mouths agape, some frozen in confusion. Admiral Whitmore's presence alone had already shifted the energy in the room, but now the stakes had risen even higher. I could feel it. This was about to be a moment that no one present would forget. The officer addressed the Admiral formally. "Fleet Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Reyes has been recommended for early promotion to Commander, effective immediately. Her leadership in the recent Pacific operation is being recognized across the fleet." Gasps rippled through the room. My family's previous laughter and scoffs were now replaced by shock. Their disbelief was tangible. For years, they had downplayed my ambitions, dismissed my long hours of preparation, and ignored the weight of my accomplishments. Now, the evidence was undeniable, presented in the most formal, commanding way possible. I took a deep breath and allowed a small, composed smile. This was not arrogance. It was vindication. I could feel the pride of every mission, every sleepless night, and every challenge I had faced over the years, settling into a quiet satisfaction. Admiral Whitmore's eyes met mine. "Lieutenant Commander Reyes, your dedication, courage, and ambition set an example for everyone in this room." The room fell completely silent, the weight of his words pressing on everyone present. My family finally understood that ambition is not something to be toned down. It is a force to be respected, cultivated, and celebrated. I looked around at their faces. My mother's lips pressed together, trying to compose herself. My father's eyes shone with a mixture of pride and disbelief. My younger brother's jaw was slack, his earlier jokes and dismissals suddenly meaningless. The Admiral's recognition had forced them to confront the reality. I was not only capable, I was exceptional. Then, the Admiral raised his voice, commanding attention one final time. "Everyone, witness the dedication, vision, and ambition of Lieutenant Commander Emma Reyes. Never let anyone tell you to tone it down." The words echoed through the room. My family's disbelief had reached its peak. All eyes were on me. The room finally exhaled. The weight of authority and recognition hung heavy, yet liberating, in the air. Admiral Whitmore's words had confirmed it. My ambition was not a flaw, it was a strength. The promotion recommendation, the formal recognition of my leadership in the Pacific operation, and the Admiral's personal commendation, all of it validated years of dedication, discipline, and sacrifice. No one could argue with the facts. My career achievements were real. My family's doubts, their laughter, and their attempts to tone down my ambition were irrelevant against this undeniable proof. Every medal, every mission, every sleepless night spent honing my skills had led to this moment. Relief washed over me. Pride settled in my chest. I could finally release the tension I had carried, not for the Navy, not for my colleagues, but for the very people who had doubted me the most. My parents, previously critical, now looked at me with a mixture of awe, pride, and regret. My younger brother's wide-eyed astonishment softened into respect. The silence of the room carried the weight of validation, a powerful recognition of my persistence and courage. I smiled softly, not out of triumph over them, but because the truth had finally been seen and acknowledged. My ambition was no longer a point of contention. It was celebrated. The effects were immediate. My family's perception of my goals shifted dramatically. Conversations that once contained subtle condescension were replaced with questions and admiration. My reputation among peers, mentors, and leadership was solidified. Fleet Admiral Whitmore's acknowledgement would ripple throughout the Navy, positioning me for higher command opportunities sooner than expected. Those who doubted me would now see firsthand the results of perseverance, vision, and courage. Socially, my family had to reckon with their misjudgment. Professionally, my career momentum accelerated. Personally, I felt a freedom I had never known, the freedom to pursue my ambitions without apology or hesitation. I straightened my shoulders and looked around the room one last time. The Admiral saluted me subtly. My family, silent and reflective, had witnessed the truth. I realized then that ambition, when guided by dedication and integrity, cannot be minimized or mocked. It commands respect. They laughed at me once, I thought, but ambition, when earned and proven, cannot be silenced. I left the room with a sense of empowerment, validation, and readiness for the challenges ahead. That day, my ambition was not only recognized but celebrated, and nothing would ever make me shrink it again.